In the case of an actual emergency, our body has a natural response. We call it fight or flight. Let's say we're out on a walk and we're hearing some sort of strange sound over to the side of us, and we look over and there's a mountain lion. Ah! The body will start pumping adrenaline. We call it the fight or flight response. This adrenaline will start happening to give us some extra energy to either run from the mountain lion or stay there and fight the mountain lion. Fight or flight. The adrenaline boost gives us a chance to survive that emergency situation. The other thing that will happen is the heart rate will elevate and pump more blood to our muscles to give us support for the running or the fighting of the mountain lion. In any emergency situation, this happens, whether it's a mountain lion, a hurricane, a tornado, or tsunami, a volcano, drowning in a river, which I have experienced 3 times. I've almost drowned 3 times. So in the case of an actual emergency, this happens, this fight or flight response. And there's this whole chemistry lab that goes off to help us survive this event. The adrenaline for extra energy, the elevated heart rate to pump more blood to our muscles, cortisol, all kinds of other stress hormones happen in the case of an actual emergency. Okay, so now with that information, let's go forward now to this aspect of our mind that I call problem solver mind. It's the aspect of our mind that's very good at solving problems. If we're going to make some guacamole and we're in the produce section of the grocery store, our problem solver mind would be very helpful in determining which avocados are too green, which ones are too ripe, how many avocados, do we want some onion, do we want some jalapeno, what other ingredients do we want to have in our guacamole? Problem solver mind is very good at solving those problems for us. If on the way home from the grocery store we're driving in our car and the light starts to turn from green to yellow, the problem solver mind can help us determine whether or not we need to put our foot on the brake or whether we have time to go through the light. Various things like this that happen throughout our day. The problem solver mind is very good at solving these kind of problems. Now, okay, you may notice that I paused the recording and now I'm back speaking again. A real life thing happened as I'm recording. I have my windows open here at the studio and a thunderstorm is now arriving, so I had to go close the windows. Problem solver mind was very helpful to me in that moment. It was something that was happening in the current moment. Problem solver mind is very good at solving things that are happening in the current moment. So I've shut all the windows, and we may get to hear the sound of a thunderstorm during this recording. Okay, so if we continue our exploration. So we've discussed what happens in the case of an actual emergency. All kinds of chemistry starts going on. Now, when that happens, in the case of an actual emergency, when the adrenaline happens and the elevated heart rate and all of those kind of things, that's there to help us survive a situation, an actual emergency. Now, problem solver mind, that part of our mind that's very good at solving problems that are happening in this moment, like me pausing the recording and going up and closing the windows so that rain doesn't get in during this thunderstorm. So perfect that happened. Okay, so now, if there isn't a problem happening in our current moment, what our problem solver mind will do is go forward in time and consider something that might be a problem. Like let's say for some reason our mind went forward in time and because we're going to go on a hike and we're now worrying about the possibility of a mountain lion. If we're worrying about the possibility of a mountain lion and we get pulled into that, that's going to trigger that same chemistry lab. The body will start pumping adrenaline. When we worry, the body receives that as a signal that we need now adrenaline to handle that possible mountain lion. The heart rate will elevate. Cortisol will pump. All of that will get activated just by worrying. And it doesn't even have to be a worry about a mountain lion. It can be any worry that we get pulled into will trigger this chemistry lab inside our body. Now, in the case of worry, because we don't actually burn off that energy that we produced, it is now in the body, and that's what anxiety is. Anxiety is the physiological response to all that chemistry lab that didn't get burned off, all that adrenaline and elevated heart rate. So that's why anxiety, there's the physical component of anxiety where we're jittery or sweaty or feel like we're going to pass out. All of that anxiety is all that extra chemistry lab that we didn't actually need, and all it was our body responding to worry. So, if we don't have worry, we can't have anxiety. So there's a sequence to this. We won't have the anxiety if we don't have worry. And we won't have worry if problem solver mind doesn't go forward in time and try to solve something that it can't solve. That's what problem solver mind does. It tries to solve problems. So when it goes forward in time and tries to solve that potential problem, it spins and goes round and round and round. And that's what triggers that physiological response, the adrenaline and the elevated heart rate, and that's what creates anxiety. In the same way, our problem solver mind will go back in time and try to solve something that already occurred, that it sees as problematic. Now, in the same way as when it goes forward in time, it also can't solve when it goes back in time, because whatever occurred, no matter how problematic our problem solver mind seems to believe that is, it can't actually solve it, but it will spin round and round and try to solve it. If only this, and I should have that, and how come they didn't this, and all that will get spinning, and that can then trigger regret, resentment, shame, guilt, blame. Those kind of things can get activated if we let problem solver mind go back in time and try to solve something that already occurred. So in either direction, forward of the present moment, if problem solver mind goes forward in time, it will lead to worry and anxiety. Fear also can come from that. Problem solver mind goes back in time, it can lead to resentment, regret, shame, guilt, blame, those kind of things. So one of the lovely possibilities would be to enter into a practice to change that habit, the habit of our problem solver mind going forward in time or back in time. So this is a practice I call the problem solver mind practice. So the possibility is when you notice yourself worrying, to stop and ask right in that moment of your problem solver mind, hey, problem solver mind, is there anything of benefit that can be done right now regarding that? If the answer is yes, well then go do that. You might get a knowing to add it to your to-do list or make a phone call or something. You might get a yes, but normally, probably like 99% of the time, when you ask that question, when you're in worry, when you've started to worry, when you stop and ask the question, hey, problem solver mind, is there anything of benefit that can be done right now regarding that? Usually the answer is going to be no. And when the answer is no, then just, nicely thank your problem solver mind. Thank you so much. Because remember, the problem solver mind is not the enemy. It's just trying to make things better for us. So we can thank our problem solver mind. Thank you so much for trying to solve that. But I just need to let you know that's not anything we can do anything about. We don't have control over that. thank our problem solver mind, and then we can let our problem solver mind know that we're just going to now rest our attention back into our breath. So at that point, I invite people to bring your attention back to your breath after you've thanked your problem solver mind. Bring your attention back to your breath and focus on making your breath longer and slower than it normally is. Big in breaths. Big out breaths. See, now your attention is focused on your breath. Instead of letting your attention get pulled into problem solver mind and then lead to worry and anxiety and potentially fear, we can bring our attention back to our breath and focus on the breath. Nice, long, slow breath. And as soon as you're breathing long and slow, that will send a signal to your body that there isn't an emergency after all, because the body knows if we're breathing long and slow, there's not an emergency. Because in the case of an actual emergency, we don't breathe long and slow. For example, if right now you were suddenly to be in the presence of a mountain lion, you wouldn't go like this. Hello there, mountain lion. So nice to see you. That's unlikely that would be your response. You would probably get pulled into the fight or flight, response, and adrenaline would be pumping and your heart rate would elevate and you'd be running or fighting the mountain lion. So if we're breathing long and slow, the body knows there's not an actual an emergency. So the nervous system will relax. The heart rate will slow back down to a natural state. The adrenaline will stop pumping. The cortisol and all the other stress hormones will stop pumping. The whole chemistry lab will relax back down into a nice, natural, peaceful state. And we don't have to activate all of that would lead to anxiety and fear or resentment, shame, guilt, blame if we go back in time. So the possibility with this practice is to prevent unnecessary suffering for ourselves. We don't have to get pulled into that. So in any moment that we notice ourselves being pulled back in time, trying to solve something that has already occurred, we can use the problem solver mind practice. Hi, problem solver mind. Is there anything of benefit that can be done right now regarding that? And there won't be anything of benefit because it already occurred. We can't change it. It already occurred. And then we thank our problem solver mind. Thank you so much for trying to change that. You're right. That would be way better if that had gone differently. Thank you so much. And then we come back to our breath. Long, slow breaths. Nice, long, slow in breath. Nice, long, slow out breath. And the nervous system can relax again. Same with if we notice we've gotten pulled into worry. If our attention has gotten pulled into the problem solver mind trying to solve something forward in time, if we can notice that worry and then just ask, hey, problem solver mind, is there anything of benefit that can be done right now regarding that? And when the answer is no, thank you so much, problem solver mind. And you can rest now because I'm going to bring my attention back to my breath. Nice, long, slow breath. Allowing the systems to relax. And if we allow this to be a regular practice, we can change the habit of our attention getting pulled into problem solver mind going forward in time and problem solver mind going back in time. There can be more ease and tranquility in our lived experience by changing the habit of our attention getting pulled into problem solver mind going forward in time, creating worry and anxiety and fear, and problem solver mind going back in time and creating resentment, regret, shame, guilt, those kind of experiences. Nice, long, slow breaths.